In this video, we're going to be talking about depth, importance of colors, temperature, complementary colors, and so on. Important feature of light is color and also intensity, so darkness, brightness, warmth, cold, etc. And this is a very powerful tool if you want to create really interesting composition. Now, in this image, you can see that we have basically one color. It's kind of like a yellowish white, and that's it, right? But I created depth by simply fading things out in the background. So I used value, which means intensity, to create depth and create an illusion that something is really far away by making it less apparent. Another trick that's used here is scale, so size of things, right? Things that are bigger appear closer, and because the sphere takes so much space in the 3D view, it makes it look huge. But if I place the same sphere far, far away, somewhere there, this would even further amplify the depth of the image, because you could relate that, this size here or this object here is the same as the object over there. So if I did that, it would be even stronger, because you would think subconsciously that, well, the same object here is over there and the size is very different, which means this is really far away. So you could create depth by placing the same object far away, make it smaller, and it will create, illusion of depth in a 2D image, because let's face it, that's a 2D image, right? In this image, I created depth by using colors and light. So you can see that the vessel is really well lit. There are some highlights here, so there's a lot of contrast. Also, you have lights and, these yellow barriers and the pipes on the bottom, and this container here, the cargo, and also the soldier or whatever, the stuff here on this landing pad. They use kind of like bright jackets, and then the entire back is very gray and sort of cyan. So even though these buildings are not that far away, you can feel the depth of it. Also, another trick used here is actually focus, which means the things in front, are well focused, they're sharp. And these buildings at the back are kind of fuzzy and falling out of focus, right? So there are three elements here used to create depth in the image. Another important thing that you can use in images is temperature. So warmer colors are going to be always bring in more attention. So if you're going to use something like yellow, green, red, etc., they're going to always pop. Which is why, for example, like when you use really warm lights on your vessel, on your models, it's a good idea to make them quite small, because they're gonna pop really strong. Same as here, I was using very small lights and larger kind of yellow warm elements around this platform to kind of surround it with color, to literally make you get lost in this kind of a circulation here. So you're drawn to the middle of this platform by lights, contrast, color, temperature, etc. And the back is cold, the back is cold, it's cyan, it's kind of faded and it's blurry. You do have some lights here and there, but they are used to simply pull your attention back to the background, right? And sort of, follow here through this line back here and back to the platform. So I use these lights to sort of make you jump from this front plan to the back plan and, go to these logos and they go back. So they use as anchors to sort of help you travel through this kind of a dull and gray building. Now, complementary colors is something that's also important, and you need to understand how it works. Now, how complementary colors work, you have opposite colors that complement each other, which means they can coexist in one scene very well together, right? So you got red and cyan, blue and yellow, green and magenta, and then anything in between. So if you go to Photoshop here and you add curves, right? And you go to this curve handle here, and you swap here from RGB to a blue channel, for example. If I move this handle up, I'm going to be adding blue to shadows or to highlights, and here's going to be highlights, you add yellow or blue, right? And here's going to be green, so green and magenta, and then you have red and cyan. So this is how RGB space works. How painters use colors is a little bit different. Classic painters were using this kind of a complementary color scale. So it's green and red, orange and blue, and purple and yellow, so a bit different. But since we're working in RGB space, I would suggest you use these, So now, the way to create depth in the image, what you do is create very warm foreground, and then you create colder background, right? And then you have, for example, yellow or orangish foreground and azure or blue or cyan background. And these two colors gonna communicate very well together. They will divide your work into two parts, you know, the front warm and the back cold, but they will, you know, they will coexist very well together in color space. Now humans are drawn to warm colors, so we're gonna be drawn first to yellow, orange, you know, green, etc., red. And then we're gonna notice colder colors, which is why I used yellow color here in the front and, you know, more of a cyan color in the back, because we're gonna be drawn first to warmth and contrast, sharpness, right? So I used three elements here to create this first plan, and then I faded out the back so it's more blurry, more cyan, and less contrasty, okay? Now, as we discussed in previous videos, all lights come with temperatures, so you could actually create colder and warmer lights. So let's go back to Kelvin temperature scale. We talked about it in previous videos, but you know, I just want to reiterate that because it's important. So you can create depth and importance using lights of different temperature. The warmer the lights, the warmer the color, right? The more attention they're gonna draw. So if you're gonna, for example, create some green lights and red lights will always bring more attention, okay? They're gonna draw all the attention. If you're gonna create colder lights like bluish, they will be less visible. So you could, for example, create warmer lights in the front and colder lights in the back of your scene, and that's gonna create nice depth, okay? In short, to create depth in an image, you're gonna be using value, color, temperature, detail, and size, right? But color, and which means basically light, because light is, you know, light carries color, and without light there is no color, because you would not be able to see anything. So light, you know, color of light is so important, but also the intensity of light is important. So you can create depth with value, so, you know, kind of dropping the value, which means dropping the strength of contrast. So creating less contrasty background and more contrasty foreground. You can operate with warm and cold colors. You can operate with size as well. And you could create contrast on your object, which is going to be, you know, light intensity. So you have a lot of tools in terms of operating with light and its color to create atmosphere, mood, and depth to your image, okay?